Now that you've studied Hagia Sophia and San Vitali, we are going to move fairly quickly through the rest of the chapter. We will not, unfortunately, spend a lot of time looking at the monastery of St. Catherine on Mount Sinai. It is very important. We just have to make selections about our time within the limits we have. I do want to stop here for a moment, though, because there are a few key points to note. The textbook explains Justinian's imperial architectural projects extended across the breadth of the Byzantine Empire, emulating the examples of the great emperors of Rome. Soon after the dedication of San Vitali, he sponsored the reconstruction of the monastery of St. Catherine at Mount Sinai in Egypt. So pause and think about this location, Mount Sinai in Egypt. This is, in the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, a place of great spiritual power. It is the place mentioned twice in the Hebrew Bible chapter Exodus in relationship to Moses, who is a prophet figure. And remember, these Abrahamic monotheisms all deal with male prophets, starting with Abraham, and for the Christians, ending in Jesus as the Messiah. So this monastery is built on the mountaintop site where Moses is said to have encountered God in the form of a burning bush, and also to have received the 10 Commandments. So this is an example of a monastery church built on a site associated with miracles, and with the divine experience of the prophet's relationship to God. And so it is a destination for people traveling on holy pilgrimage. This section on the monastery gives us an invaluable section down here where we hear the words of Procopius, who was a Byzantine historian that lived in the time of Justinian. And he's describing for us how monks lived and what it meant to be a monk in 500s. On this Mount Sinai dwell monks whose life is a kind of careful rehearsal of death, and they enjoy without fear the solitude which is very precious to them. Since these monks have nothing to desire, for they are superior to all human wishes, and they have no interest in owning anything or in caring for their bodies, nor do they seek pleasure in anything whatsoever. Therefore, the Emperor Justinian built them a church, which he dedicated to the Mother of God, so that they might be enabled to pass their lives within it, praying and holding services. So the ideal of a monk, of being a monk in a monastery, was to be completely without any aspirations but to pray, to be in contact with God. In early Christianity, hermits living alone in the desert were the ultimate expression of this ideal. This painting by Giovanni Bellini depicts Saint Francis as a hermit living in a makeshift hut and cave, rejecting all worldly pursuits for total devotion to God. The city walls in the background show that he has left behind the life of getting and spending to devote himself to the mysteries of the divine. So this impulse toward complete devotion to God led to the development of monasteries, which are going to be hugely important institutions through the medieval world. The idea is that Christians can continue the sort of lifestyle of the hermit, but now in a communal situation. So assembling around, so it says by the 4th century, groups of men and women began assembling around these hermits, ultimately forming independent, secluded communities devoted to prayer and work. Though these monks and nuns practiced celibacy, poverty, and obedience to a spiritual leader. So this way of forming a community, a religious community, is going to be massively important in the next few chapters. And the monastic movement, as they is going to grow and spread. There will be a tension, though. These monasteries, being tax exempt, will often amass enormous wealth. They will receive donations. They will become beautifully decorated with gorgeous art. So here's St. Catherine. And there will at moments be a real anxiety about the way these monasteries have become wealthy institutions of power and a lifestyle that is actually sumptuous. So stay tuned for that in future chapters. For now, we will move forward looking past the ivories. We're going to skip over the ivories. And although illuminated manuscripts are hugely important, they're the big focus in the next chapter, so we're skipping forward again. You've already looked at the David plates, the silver. What we talk about next is icons.